Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you as well to the members from Timmins, James Bay, and also the Attorney General for your comments about my dear friend, Doug Rollins. You're very accurate in the fact that he was very proud of his role as one of those gas commissioners. They were affectionately known as the gas busters. And we actually used to, when I was in my radio career, would have Doug on from time to time talking about the gas prices, playing the Ghostbusters theme song behind, and Doug was very proud of that. And usually we would ring him up here at 6:05 in the morning just after I read the 6 o'clock news, and Doug would be on the air, and he would be talking about how much gas prices were going to go up that day and how they shouldn't be going up that much. So we should actually think about bringing the gas busters back here in this time, because I think back then gas prices were well under $1. Now, of course, they're a lot more than that, that's for sure. I would also really like to welcome Cheryl, who's become a friend of mine, and Cheryl, of course, is Doug's wife, and she's been a great friend and a great supporter, and not just here in this place or in my endeavours to come to this place, but back when I used to play first base for the Belleville-Labatt Nationals, the Senior A baseball team in Belleville, Cheryl and Doug would always be behind the backstop at Rotary Park in Belleville, and you could always hear Doug Rollins, and every pitcher that came to town from another city knew who Doug Rollins was because he was all over them. I'd also really like to welcome Michelle as well, and her husband Trevor Clark. They came in from Belleville today, and Melissa and Craig McIntyre, who live here in Toronto, and of course the grandkids as well. Avery and Paige are here, and it's so nice to see you. I know that Rusty, Doug's brother, also wishes that he could be here today, and Rusty and Gail are watching down in the Hamilton area, I'm sure, and wishing that they could be here today, but health reasons are keeping Rusty from being here at Queen's Park today. You know, the first picture that I have on record ever being involved on this side of the political landscape, not holding a microphone and interviewing one of you guys, was actually the day that I decided that I was going to run for the Progressive Conservative Party in the last election. It was a warm, sunny day, June 16th, 2011, down at Myers Pier in Belleville, and the picture that appeared in the Belleville Intelligencer the next day was me standing by the Bay of Quinte and talking to Doug Rollins. And Doug really was the Progressive Conservative Association, or the face of the Progressive Conservative Party in the Quinte region, as the Attorney General points out. There was no question about that. If you wanted to talk to an influential Tory, Doug was going to make it happen. He was just an outstanding guy, and we spent a lot of time together during that campaign. And while Doug was the former member of the old riding of Quinte, which unfortunately no longer exists anymore, but after redistribution it could be back, known as the Bay of Quinte, I don't stand here particularly to talk as much about his political career, but the Doug Rollins, who was my friend, who I got to know over the last 20 years extremely well. It really is, as the Attorney General pointed out, hard to think that this chamber has ever known anybody that was as straight a shooter as Doug Rollins was, and that was my comment to the Intelligencer as well. He never hesitated to speak his mind. He often would use blunt and very colorful language when he was speaking about his beliefs as well, so he left no question as to where he stood on any issue. You always knew what he believed in, and he would look you square in the eye and tell you what he believed while he was doing it. And I think a lot of people had a lot of trust in Doug Rollins because he would do just that. Doug was one of those common sense revolutionaries, as we've heard, who came in here in 1995. He always spoke proudly about serving here at Queen's Park and being a member of the Mike Harris team here at Queen's Park. And, you know, when he talked about Queen's Park, Doug always did the same thing. You know, he would say, when we came here in '95, we did exactly what we said we were going to do. And he was very proud of that because that's the kind of character that he had as a person as well. Everyone out there has their favorite Doug Rollins stories. I have many. But it happens to be true here for those of you who have served at Queen's Park as well. Everybody has memories of Doug walking the halls here at Queen's Park, or down at a reception in the legislative dining room. When Doug passed away suddenly, my colleague from Haldimand, Norfolk, Toby Barrett, told me his favorite Doug Rollins story. And it was actually during one of those famous teacher protests from the 1990s on the South Lawn here. And Doug and our neighbouring MPP, Gary Fox, and a number of members of the PC caucus were out there in a bus. They'd been bussed in that day from wherever they were. And there was a large mob of teachers that were out there protesting, not dissimilar to the ones we saw in September of this past year. Anyone who knew Doug knew how big of a man he was. He was actually a pretty good football player in his day, too. He actually won in 1959 the Ontario and the Canadian Championship for football with the University of Guelph. So he was a big, strong boy. Doug just said to Toby Barrett and the others that were on the bus that day, he said, "Don't worry, boys, I'll get you in the building." And he took his briefcase and he put it in front of him and he cleared a path right through to the front doors at Queen's Park. It was almost as if he was a wedge that was driving his way through the mob so that all of the other colleagues could get through safely.
Good old days.
I'll personally never forget during the election campaign bombing down the Shannonville gravel road, and we were driving along in my change car at the time, and Doug was driving because nobody knew his way around Hastings County as well as Doug Rollins did. Often Doug would be doing well in excess of the speed limit, and he would be telling you stories about all of the different houses and the different businesses and those who occupied them, and the fact that there used to be a rail line that used to go from Thurlow to Havelock on Friday nights, and all of the great stories about his childhood growing up in Hastings County. The only thing really bigger than Doug's personality was his heart, and anyone who knew him knew that too. In '95, Doug fought a real battle, as the Attorney General says, with Belleville Mayor George Zagoras at the time to win his seat here in the legislature, and it was a highly contested battle in '95. And I can tell you that last year, George Zagoras fell ill, and he was nearing the end of his life. And the first person to call me and tell me about that was Doug Rollins. And Doug was wondering if there was anything that I could do in my position as the new MPP to ensure that Mr. Zagoras was moved from a hospital bed in Kingston so that he could be close to his family in Belleville. And he really did care. You know, he was a very caring individual, and I think that story there says a lot about Doug Rollins as well. They were two of the giants of 1995, and Zagoras made a comeback later and became mayor of Belleville again, but unfortunately we lost two of those influential people in Belleville and our greater Quinte area last year. Both of them passed away, and the community really is poorer for it because both of them were characters, both of them had so much integrity, and it was a great loss for our area. The spirit does live on, though, in the Quinte region, and it's great to have Cheryl and his daughters who are here today. You know, every time I tell a Doug Rollins story, and there are many of them out there to tell, you kind of have to smile and laugh because there are some real funny stories about Doug, and many of them are probably not appropriate to tell in this place. But he was a real character. He really did love the time that he spent here. And sometimes when I look into the back rows or in the rump here, I think about the conversations that must have gone on with people like Doug Rollins and Gary Fox and Doug Galt, and how that they would be spending time heckling Dalton McGuinty and other members, and quite possibly the Attorney General as well, and how Gary Stewart was probably chiming in there from time to time too. But from the day he walked onto this floor for the first time, and then the last time that he walked off, Doug definitely was a servant of the people of Quinte, and he loved every minute of it, and our area is poor for his loss, but he will be missed. And thank you all for your comments here this afternoon, and thank you, Speaker, for allowing us the time to do that, and all the best to the Rollins family. Thank you.